everybody? Welcome to a Thursday episode of The Rundown. I'm Joey Gunner, filling in for Richie Carney. We're going to be talking about some crazy stuff today, but first and foremost, let's get a message from our sponsor. If weight loss has been a struggle, it's time for something real. At Denver Regenerative Medicine, they use full-strength GLP-1 medications with doctor oversight. Start today with a free consultation. Real results for under $300 a month. Book now at denverregen.com. So this weekend, we are seeing something big. And what that big thing is the Philadelphia Eagles. This will be the toughest matchup that the Broncos will have to see all year long. There is no team that the Broncos will play that is harder than the Eagles, that is more skilled at most position groups, and overall has the accolades. The Chiefs are the reigning champs. They are the team to beat. So they're going to have to go out there and play not only better football than they have in their first 4 weeks, but the best football that they possibly can on all phases of the game. They need to go out there and win from start to finish. They need to be able to offensively dominate on that side of the ball, and then defensively be able to stop the Eagles' amazing performances that they've been able to have. And the best way to do that is nullify the rushing game. The run game for the Eagles is, of course, a scary topic to talk about. You know, Saquon Barkley, of course, one of the best running backs in the league. What he did last year was insanity. I mean, wow. He was putting up highlights every single game, incredible numbers. You know, what he did cannot be stopped, but slowed down, that can happen. Now, there is another facet to the run game, though, for the Eagles. And that's what happens when they're in a goal line position. That's what happens when it's 4th and inches. The tush push. You got to stop the tush push. And the best way to stop that, the only way to stop the tush push, is to not let them get into situations where that becomes an ability that the Eagles can use for their advantage. It's impossible to stop. We haven't seen a team successfully stop the tush push more than once in a game. I mean, we've seen it a couple times, and it it's breaking news. Honestly, you see it on ESPN, House of Highlights, Bleacher Report, posted everywhere when the tush push does not work for the Eagles. That's because it's so incredibly rare. And the only way to stop it is to not let them get into that stance in the first place. You know, keep them behind the sticks, keep them behind schedule, and you can stop them from abusing a crazy, crazy play that they have. Now, of course, that's great. You stop the run game. That's the first goal. But then you got another real big problem to deal with, and that's the passing game. You know, the Eagles have arguably the best receiver room in the league. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, and they've got Jalen Hurts throwing to them. And I don't want to hear any of the crap talk about Jalen Hurts. He's a solid quarterback. I mean, this is a guy who just won a championship. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, top 10 in the league, definitely. And he can hit those guys. It doesn't matter who you have in that system. What matters is that he can get the ball to some of the better receivers in the league. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, those guys are great. Maybe not Jahan Dotson. I won't say he's great, but he's, you know, solid as a wide receiver 3. I mean, yeah. So dangerous, dangerous offense is what the Broncos have to go up against. And if the Broncos can pull it out, if they can stop them, it'll be a real hard defensive battle for the Broncos. If, very, very big if, they can win this game, how much does it mean? Does it mean more than a regular win against the Bengals? Yeah. Not all wins are created equal in the NFL. It doesn't matter if you're 2-2 or 12-2. All wins are not created equal. You know, the win against the Bengals was great. It was amazing, but it was the Bengals. It was the Bengals without Joe Burrow, and it was the Bengals who we know have a terrible defense. So that win was not very telling of what this team can actually do against teams like the Eagles, who are consistently in the top 3 in the power rankings, looked at as one of the top contenders to go back-to-back to win the Super Bowl this year. This is not going to be a win against the Bengals. This has as much gravity, as close to as much gravity as you can for a playoff game. if you get a win here, the repercussions of that are immense. They're huge. You go out and you put your name on the map and you say that the Broncos are here to stay. The Broncos are a real contender in this league, and they would officially, put themselves in that conversation. Now, does that make them a true contender in this league? Not quite. No. Any given Sunday, things can happen. You know what they're saying out in Philly right now? Is that this is a trap game. The Broncos are good. This might be a game where Philly might struggle against the solid defense who's leading the league in sacks this season. That's what they're saying in Philly. So if the Broncos can go and win this week, they would be elevated to have that same conversation. Next week, when the Broncos are taking on the Jets, then what are we going to be talking about here in Denver? Is this a trap game? Is this a game where the Broncos might fall behind and shoot themselves in the foot? So they would no longer be, we wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here in front of this camera talking to Denver Sports. I wouldn't be talking about, what can the Broncos do to get better? What can the Broncos do because we expected a loss here? I would instead be talking about, wow, the Broncos have put themselves on the map. Now it's time to play like they really are that team. You lost to the Colts, a real tough team this year, apparently, a real tough team. You lost to the Chargers, who has an MVP frontrunner, one of them, Justin Herbert. The Chargers look like a Super Bowl winning team right now. Those are tough teams that you already played. This has not been an easy schedule. 2-2 is all right so far. You got an easy win against the Bengals, and then you got a win against the Titans. So the two teams that the Broncos have beat were not good, and the two teams that they have lost to were solid, were pretty good. The Colts are looking like a playoff team, and don't even get me started on the Chargers, who look like they're going to win the division. The Eagles will be the toughest matchup the Broncos face all season. If they can go out there and get a win, it means much more than a win against the Chargers, than a win against the Colts. Even though the Chargers might end up winning the division, if the Broncos beat the Eagles here and then squeak into the playoffs, there would be conversations about the Broncos being one of the tougher teams because of the fact that they beat one of the better teams. The Eagles are coming in 4-0, and looking at their schedule, it's going to be tough for them to lose a game. And it's going to be real tough for the Broncos, who have started the season kind of sluggish. But if we remember last year, week 5, that's about how long it took for Bo Nix to really get in stride. And after last week's performance from Bo Nix, it looks like he's found his stride. It looks like he's found his confidence. So they can go out there and win this. And if they do, then we'll be having a totally different conversation. We will be having a totally different conversation on what the Broncos can do this entire season. Now, moving on, there's another story that took place yesterday, and it grabbed the headlines all across the nation. I mean, you could not avoid this story about Shedeur Sanders in the locker room, finding out that Dylan Gabriel was announced as the QB1 for this upcoming week against Minnesota. Wild interview. I want you to take a look at this video and make sure not to, check your volume or anything, because I promise you, your volume is working. Take a look at this video right here.
Vocally, anything to say about?
Enjoying yourself and having fun.
That's what more. That's what do you think you have to show? Show to coaches to have that belief in them. What can you say? How much is Joe important to both you and Dylan in terms of your guys' development at this point?
Yeah. What was that? I mean, what was that? Shedeur Sanders doing a mime impression when he was being asked questions, and people were just tearing into him. Every media outlet you were looking at, Twitter was going insane. People were saying that this is a ridiculous act. He's acting a fool, acting stupid, dumb, immature, everything that you could imagine people would be saying about that. They were saying about that. But there's a little bit more to the story. It's not just him acting, a little childish because he didn't get the starting nod. And that's not at all what it was, actually. And you could see he was asked questions about Joe Flacco, all these people, and he wasn't coming out with a sense of negativity. He was actually smiling through the whole thing, looked like he was wording some positive messages. But what it actually was, according to Adam Schefter, it was a response to Rex Ryan's comments earlier this week when he said, quote, "Something's missing with this kid. This kid talks, he runs his mouth like I could be a starting quarterback with his arms crossed like this. Get your button, parentheses there, in the front row and study and do all that." So Rex Ryan's coming out and getting on Shedeur Sanders, saying that he needs to stop running his mouth, stop talking so much. And Shedeur did just that. I mean, it's hilarious. It is hilarious. I thought it was the funniest response. Immature, a little bit. It is immature. It's not the best way to respond to any, questions just with a non-response. But, I mean, it's hilarious. It's definitely hilarious. Now, what I also will say is that when you're in a position like Shedeur Sanders, where the fan base in Cleveland clearly thinks that he can be the QB1, they all want him there. You saw the preseason game when he's holding up his watch, looking up at the crowd. People want him there. But do the actual staff members, does the front office, does anybody in that building really want him there? Because with something like that, when you're the third string QB and you're getting benched and staying benched, even when there's a QB change, staying third string behind Joe Flacco, and then you respond like that, it's not a good look. It's not. And gaining this much negative press around you is never great. I mean, sometimes all press is good press. That's a fair quote sometimes, but this doesn't seem like one of those times. This seems like it's drawing a lot of attention that the staff and the front office might not want around Cleveland. And it seems like the attitude there with that, as much as I think it's hilarious and as much as I love the response to Rex Ryan, it seems too niche for people to understand. And what it came off like was a little bit of arrogance at first. And we know that Shedeur Sanders has that little bit of cockiness, that swagger, that, motivation around. He's got that attitude. But something like that, even without having to dig deep, if you don't do the deep dive and see that he's responding to Rex Ryan, then it looks bad. It looks real bad. And that's something that I can't see Cleveland really liking for their future. Is Shedeur Sanders going to be the guy in the future? And there's been no signs so far that Cleveland thinks he is in any fashion. And it sucks because I really do like Shedeur Sanders. I think that he has the skills and the talent to go out there and be the future of the Cleveland Browns, but he's being given no chances, and it's not going to end up well for him, really, if he keeps going down this path. And I mean, I hope the best for him, and I really hope that we can get to see him this year. But the more weeks that pass by and the more news that comes out about Shedeur Sanders, it just seems more and more unlikely. But that'll do it for the rundown today. We'll be back with you guys again tomorrow. Richie will still be out of town tomorrow, so it'll be another fill-in host for this show. But make sure you tune in because we're going to be talking about, of course, the big game coming up this weekend, Eagles versus Broncos. Let me know who you got in the comments. I know a lot of people are probably hoping that the Broncos win, but really, this is going to be the toughest matchup the Broncos face all year, and I cannot really see an opportunity for the Broncos to do something unless it's insane. But we'll have to see. Any given Sunday, we will see what the Broncos can do. But tune in tomorrow, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that. But thank you guys for watching today. We will see you all later. Bye, y'all.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.